friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tati, and today I want to talk about my reading journal. I started my reading journal in 2020, around, I want to say May. I think I started it around May 2020, and then I sort of towards the end of the year did a backlog. So basically everything I read from January to April I added onto my reading journal, and the reading journal is something that I have continued doing up to 2022, right? And it's something that I think I'm gonna keep doing for a very long time. And I've been wanting to make this video for a while about how I do my reading journal, my process, and kind of what it means to me, but I hadn't gotten around to that because of the very simple reason that I had no idea how to film the overhead. So like how to film my journal so I could show it to you. And today, on this random ass Monday that I had off from work, I finally figured it out very randomly. So yeah, I'm finally filming this. Honestly, I figured it out because I remembered that my tripod is a thing of beauty. Every single time I realized that it was worth the $20 investment that I made in it. And my tripod, the neck can go up, and also it can I can turn it over. So that's how I figured out how to do overhead shots on a very random Monday morning. So here we freaking are. Like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I do with my reading journal, what it means to me. And this was mostly inspired because over the last couple days I've been watching a lot of people go through their reading journals, and so it kind of inspired me to talk about mine. First things first, what do I use to make my reading journal? I'm a bougie bitch. I use my iPad. So yeah, I use my iPad, and I'm gonna explain why. So a lot of the reading journals that I've seen over the last couple days are papers, right? So like an actual notebook type situation like this, right? And like people, well, not a notebook like this, usually they use other types of notebooks. This is just a random notebook that I had on my desk. And like people will do it on paper and it'll be absolutely stunningly beautiful. I can't do that for several reasons. One, I am very neurotic and I'm a perfectionist as well. And I also need a lot of organization for my life to work in general. And I can't do paper journals because I'm always afraid that I'm gonna have to leave too many pages blank or not have enough pages to complete a particular spread, and I like things to be grouped together. Paper journal, in terms of like my perfectionism, me being kind of neurotic, and organization wise, it just doesn't work for me. I can't keep a paper journal to save my life. I've tried bullet journaling and I've tried keeping an agenda, and I suck at it. It's terrible. And I think it's the paper aspect of not like being able to put things where I want. So that doesn't work. Also, along with my perfectionism, I change a lot of things, and I need to do things in pencil, but then you have the pencil erasing marks, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me because then I make mistakes and I don't like it. I hate it, and then I get really discouraged, which does not help with the whole journal keeping thing, right? Another reason why I don't like paper journals is because I don't feel like I can express my creativity or like fulfill my vision in the way that I want to, especially because, you know, you have to have a lot of scrap paper and stickers and stuff like that. And honestly, I think in the long term, what I would be investing in my journal is way more than what I invested in my iPad. And also, you know, I don't really have a printer at home, so I'd constantly be struggling to like, again, fulfill my vision in the way that I want it to, because I wouldn't have the ability to maybe print stuff or print the book covers and all that stuff. And so I just realized that keeping a paper reading journal was never gonna be a thing that I was gonna be able to do. And so in March of 2020, when the pandemic started, I was working my first teaching job. I was working as a substitute teacher, and they paid me a substantial amount of money, more than I was making at my other job. And because of the pandemic, I was spending a lot of time at home, of course, and I wasn't really spending my money on anything. And so, you know, I had some savings, and one day on my weekly trip to Costco, I decided to invest in my iPad. And this is one of the single greatest investments that I've ever made in my entire life, because I don't just use it for journaling, right? So first, I have the Kindle app on here, so when I want to read my ebooks, I read them on here. I also journal on this thing. But also, now that I am a teacher full-time and a student, it has been really great for keeping everything organized. I have all my teaching notes in here. I have all my university things in here. So this is a one-stop shop. I have basically eliminated this. because I would have 1.5 million of these lying all over the place, carrying 1 million of them around, and things would get lost. I would lose my notes, I wouldn't know where they were, and I would make lists, and then suddenly I couldn't find them. And I don't particularly like using the notes app on my phone because I like writing. I like doing it like by hand. So this replaced so many things that I was carrying around. I feel more organized. I now have all my things in one single place, including my journal. And digital journaling has been a godsend to me because I get to realize my creative vision and I get to have all the creativity that I want without feeling that sense of like perfectionism dragging me down. Because if I don't like how a particular page looks, I can change it. And I can change it as many times as I want until I reach what I would consider perfection, even though it's pretty much not perfect because I make mistakes all the time. But digital journaling has allowed me to realize all these creative ideas and do all these amazing, beautiful designs that either I feel like I can't do on paper, or maybe I can do and I'm just really scared to do it. But also it, you know, allows my sense of perfectionism and organization to coexist with this thing that I really like doing, which is journaling. So yeah, the digital journal for me has been everything. It's everything. I am obsessed with my digital journal. I probably spend too much time on it and too much effort on it for something that is very much for myself. And also, another note on why I started journaling in general is because in 2020 I was reading a massive amount of books on account of being home all the time. Journaling has been a really great way of being able to look back on the year and on the thoughts I had on the books that I read in a way that, you know, helps me with the fact that I don't always remember that I read a particular book. Also, I use Goodreads, as many people do, to keep track of the books because I'm not always the best at keeping up with my journal when I get busy with work and university and life. So Goodreads is good for that, and then I just put it all in my journal. You know, I have a good system going, guys, is what I'm trying to get at, and that journaling has brought so much into my life that I didn't know I needed. And journaling has been pretty great, especially because I get to see, you know, what I've read in a year in a single place, and it's also helped refine my skills as a writer, as a researcher, as a reviewer. I have gotten so much better at writing reviews than when I first started, and it's even helped me in university and like in sharpening my skills when I'm writing essays and stuff. So journaling, and specifically journaling about the books that I'm reading, has brought so much to my life that I'm so glad that I started doing it and that I found a way to do it that works for me, because what works for me doesn't mean that it's gonna work for you. Digital journaling has become kind of one of the great loves of my life, basically is what I'm trying to say. And it's great. I love it. And I love that, for example, a lot of people that physical journal have massive collections of stickers, papers, markers, pens, all that kind of stuff, which I didn't have and I didn't really want to make the investment in. But with my digital journal, I can easily download photos, I create my own designs a lot of the time, and I have literally all the colors ever available to me. So yeah, it's just, I really love what my digital journal has brought into my life. And now I am going to show to you my 2022 reading journal, which is very much a work in progress. So let's get to it. So this is my 2022 reading journal, and here are the things that I use to make it. First, I use the GoodNotes app. The GoodNotes app is my favorite, and it's probably what I spend the most time on. I am absolutely obsessed with it. Everything that I have, all my school documents, teaching documents, and my reading journal live on GoodNotes. It's a really versatile app, and they're constantly making changes to it, which is why I love it. So, like I said, I have a whole range of colors that I can choose from, and I'm constantly looking for palettes and changing them. I also have the erase tool, highlighting, shapes, lasso tool, a lot of elements, which I will get into and has been a godsend since that feature came out. Pictures, text, and, you know, a little pointer if I want it. The other thing that I use a lot is Procreate. I do all my designs on here, from the lettering I do for the months to the bigger designs. For example, this is my design for my cover page for my reading journal. And I've been using Procreate basically from the beginning, and I love it. There are other apps that I'm sure that you could get for cheaper or for nothing at all, but that's the one that I know how to use, and it's the one that's worked best for me, so it's probably the one that I will continue to use forever, or until I find a better app. So this is the cover page for my reading journal, and this is basically the books that I've read, right? So I think I got this from Books with Chloe, I'm pretty sure, from what she does with her reading journal. I started doing this in 2021, I think, and it's just something that I kept up in 2022. A lot of my 2022 journal is just copy and paste it from my 2021 journal, because I'm very much of the mindset that if it works, don't change it. And this really works. I really like the spread and like being able to see like all the books next to each other. This first page is January to February. This one is February to May, May to July, and August, and probably several more months because I've been very slow in my reading this year. So yeah, I very much like the spread. So I have 4 reading goals for the year: read more in Spanish, read more nonfiction books, read classics, and from my physical TBR. And so this is how I keep track of that. Again, this is a copy paste from my 2021 journal. So this is my reading goal for Spanish. As you can see, I'm doing better than I was last year, considering that last year I read 0 books in Spanish, and this year I've read 2, and I'm working on my 3rd. I maybe will finish it today or tomorrow. So next I have my reading goal for nonfiction, and again, I'm doing pretty good. I've read 3 out of 4. So here's my reading goal for classics. I have already crushed this one, mainly due to my job, because I teach English literature and I teach classic British English literature, so you know, I'm doing pretty good. Although these 2 I did read just on my own, and these were all for work. On my reading goal physical TBR, I'm doing pretty good this year. I've already surpassed my number from last year, so this is pretty great. And of course, I have a page for DNFs, otherwise known as books that I start and do not finish. This doesn't mean I will never revisit them. It's just that, you know, for whatever reason at that particular time, I started them, didn't finish them, and so they go on the DNF list. This is my spread for 12 books by 12 friends. This one is also very much copy and pasted from my 2021 journal. I think I'm doing better on this year's than on last year's, but I'm still way behind. I have like so many books to catch up on, and I really should start prioritizing this. Okay, so this is my series tracker cover page, right? I'm not entirely happy with this, but so far we're doing good. Again, this is a design that I made on Procreate, and the signs, like what each sign says, I did make those on Procreate, but then just added them in here as a picture. So here I have my Cosmere tracker, this is like my master tracker of like everything. This is copy pasted from last year's spread as well. And then this particular page is from this year. This is for Mistborn Era 2, and my other journal has Mistborn Era 1. And then this is my Shadowhunter Chronicles master page. I'm pretty sure I made this one this year. And yeah, like you can see, I've read The Mortal Instruments and Infernal Devices. Haven't gotten to The Dark Artifices or The Elder Curses or Last Hours. And I have the anthologies right here. This page is pretty simple. I'm not entirely happy with it. I might change it up later on, but for now, this is what it is. But what I like about digital journaling, like I said, is that I can remake this page 20,000 times until I'm completely satisfied with it. And so next I have my Bane Chronicles rankings. So because this is a bunch of collections and short stories, I had different ratings for each one, and so this is just how many stars I gave each short story, the cover, and then a little rune that Alec has on his neck. This is the one for Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. This I made on Procreate as well, and the picture, I just got it off the internet. This is my A Court of Thorns and Roses reread page. I, for some reason, decided to reread ACOTAR in February. Don't ask me why. I just suddenly started doing it and I finished it. This is for the new Camelot series by Sarah Simone. I read it all this year. I added in a little quote and, you know, all my ratings. Next, we have the Themis Files, which is a series I finished this year, which I had started last year. Finally got around to finishing it. This is one of my favorite pages that I've ever made. It's so beautiful, and I just really, really like it. So this is my cover for January. Last year, my journal was like zodiac based. And so this year I went back to doing like big elaborate drawings, even though I said I wasn't gonna do something very big and elaborate for this year's journal, but I decided to go back to doing elaborate drawings for some reason. So yeah, I got the art from Pinterest, I think, and then I just sketched it out, colored it, and made some changes to it. These are my monthly spreads basically, so you know, January reading. Last year I was doing like full page reviews for one book, but it got to be too much and I got really way behind, so I decided to do these half pages this year, which is not something that continues throughout the entire year, but I'll get into that. So yeah, so these are the first 2 books, then you know, it just keeps going on like that. And my tiny reviews, and then reading stats. I'm all about the reading stats. I freaking love them because I'm a nerd. And so here you can see like my stats for that particular month, and then I added a drawing there, the drawing there, because it just needed something. And then this is like my tiny wrap up that I've been making, and I post them on Twitter and on Instagram sometimes. Most of the time I post them on Twitter. I don't know, they don't always make it to Instagram. I'm kind of very shy and iffy about Instagram. So this is my February spread, you know, and I made basically everything on this page. So yeah, what I was reading, I reread A Lesson in Thorns. My plan was to reread the entire series, but then I never got around to it. So yeah, this is when I started rereading ACOTAR, and as you can see, and then I reread this by Katie Robert. I really like it. It is what it is. Then for some reason I decided that I'd stopped making progress on reading the Shadowhunter Chronicles, so I decided to read those 2 anthologies that I hadn't read yet, and so that's how that happened. And this is where you can see that I start getting busy again, and my journal's half done. And so I have like my thoughts here on what I wanted to say about in my review for Unbound. I just haven't sat down to write it yet. You know, here you have my stats and my wrap up. I continued doing the these two-tiered spreads up until like July. And then a couple days ago, I decided that that wasn't really working because I wasn't really writing the reviews, and I wanted something different for my review pages, maybe something a little more streamlined, because I've gotten very busy, and yes, my journal has definitely fallen to the wayside, but I still care about it a lot, and I continue filling it out throughout the year even when I get busy. So those 2 like divided reviews in the single page weren't particularly creative and didn't really show off the book as much as I wanted it to. So I made a new spread, and I basically last week spent a whole chunk of time going back and putting the spreads in. You'll see what I mean in a second. So this is my March cover page. I made this. I was reading Mistborn Era 2 in March, so I added a map of Ellendale. This is something else that I really like about the digital journal, is that I can just add the maps here so I can constantly see them, especially if I'm listening to audiobooks. This is particularly great. So I added another sort of map of Ellendale. So this is the new spread that I made, right? And here it says whether I read it as a book, an ebook, or an audiobook. It has a little book summary. I usually don't make these myself. A lot of the times grab them from Goodreads. And I get to have like the page, the star rating. I didn't rate this because I read it for work, and it has like the title, the author, the published date, page count, started on, finished on, and whether it's part of a series or not. And here I get to put favorite quotes and then write a little review. Like I said, I'm behind, so these aren't all filled out, but I've been working on it. And I think this page works a lot better for like showing off each book than what I was doing previously, and it'll be easier to fill them out. Also, I get to put a little book summary, which is kind of nice because I sometimes forget the plot of the books that I read. So that's pretty great. And I think this like gives more information, and it's just nicer to look at. So here we have Alloy of Law. This is a tiny bit more filled out, and it has like a note that I made for what I was gonna write in the review. So I'll do that sometimes. And then I get to customize these a little bit more, and I get to like do the writing in black if I want to, and then I can just like change the background color of everything because it's malleable because I made it on GoodNotes. And this is where I said earlier that I was gonna go back to the elements feature, because what I can do is add in a current template, right? So I have an empty page and I go to the elements here and I have one that's called reviews. And I can just insert my template that I made and I get to work on it, right? And like I said, I can change things 1.5 million times, go back, delete, and it really works for me, is what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, see, this one's way more filled out. This one all has quotes. This already has the book summary. I just have to write the review now. So my stats, my little wrap up. I kind of choose a color palette for each month to work with, and then I add it here to my pen. So each of these is a color palette for a particular month that I was working on. April, you know, continued on. Like I said, see, this is where you see that I haven't finished adding all the book summaries yet. I was working on it the other day and I just, you know, I have to find time for it, but I'm working on it, right? And so you can also see that I use these like tiny pieces a couple times. So usually I'll grab the whatever design I made for the month, like in March, that I had like the leaves, the cover page was a bunch of leaves, and so you see leaves like scattered around everywhere. I got those from the cover page and I just keep reusing them as decorations, right? So as stickers, basically, as anybody else would do. April was a slow reading month, but you know, see it, and then that's my May cover. I spent most of the summer rereading Persuasion because I was going to teach it this year, and they changed locations a couple times, so I, you know, added a map of the UK because I'm not very familiar with UK geography, and like starred places where they were. And then I added another one of Somerset because, you know, they go to Bath. They also spend some time around Taunton-ish. So yeah. And then another really great thing that I love doing in my reading journal is reading notes, right? So I used to do these a lot for the Shadowhunter Chronicles because I was doing live shows on them. And again, terrible memory. So these were really great for when I was doing live shows to like remember what the hell it was that I was talking about. And so I did these for Persuasion because I was going to teach it. So I needed to like have a really good understanding of the book. And so you just see pages and pages and pages of notes, right? Persuasion, because I was teaching it rather than just doing this for myself, isn't as fully decorated as some of my other reading notes, because my Shadowhunter notes, oh boy, those were like super decorated, very detailed. I would grab art from everywhere and anywhere and I would insert it, and they looked really good. And I'll do another video in which I show off my 2021 journal because somebody should see those notes. So yeah, here we have what I was reading in May. I read a couple things. See, I leave notes for myself for when I eventually write the review. So yeah, I only read 3 books. So yeah, even though my Persuasion notes are part of May. June, I really didn't know what I wanted to do for my spread, and I kind of found this picture on Pinterest and I sort of just ran with it. It has nothing to do with my reading or with June in particular, but you know, this is what I made for June. I read Beach Read in June, The Poppy War. This is basically like a full filled out page because Skylar got me Galatea, I don't know how you pronounce that, for my birthday, and as soon as I read it, I fell in love with it, and I felt the need to write a review immediately. So this is like a fully filled out page, book summary, review, all the stats and things, and quotes. So yeah, this is like ideally what my entire journal's gonna look like eventually once I'm caught up, but you know, it doesn't look like that right now. Actually, another change I made on the original template that I went off of is that this used to say genre, but I don't really find that information useful for my own reading, so I added the series tag at the end. So yeah, yeah, like I said, notes. So yeah, you can just see and hear my stats, my wrap up. This is one of the prettiest designs I have made all year. I'm like obsessed with it. The fact that I created this is still mind-blowing to me. I didn't make it from scratch. I don't make most of my designs from scratch because I am really terrible at coming up with designs and drawing in general. I'm very much a tracer, but you know, I'm still pretty proud of this. Turned out pretty good. I reread Red, White, and Royal Blue because I just got in LASIK eye surgery and I needed an audiobook that I could like follow along really easily, and then I knew backwards. I also read this, you know. Finally finished Persuasion, and what I like about this, the checkboxes, is that sometimes I do read like the physical book and the audiobook at the same time, and so this shows it. It's just, you get to see, I'm clearly nowhere near finishing these, but at least I have them filled out, that part, at the very least. I still have to get quotes for all of these. And, you know, this is the undone July wrap up, which clearly, you know, I copy paste all the time because it's, you know, I've already have things made, so I don't have to do them from scratch. So I just have to replace all the information here for July and fill out the stats. And then we come to August, right? August is nowhere near being prepared. These are my notes on Borderlands La Frontera. I'm working on an essay right now and I needed to keep notes on this particular chapter, so I started reading it and I was keeping notes. I haven't finished yet. And so this is wrong. There's so many things wrong with this. This is a placeholder because again, August is nowhere near being done. It doesn't even have a color palette right now. So, you know, this is where we're at on my progress. And so these are just placeholders. I put them in to keep the book rating and all the info. I have to look for the quotes and do everything else along with figuring out a color palette for this month. Yeah. And September's like in the same. It's very much work in progress, like nowhere near done. But I am currently reading this book and I found a quote while I was reading that I really wanted to add to the favorite quote section, so I added the page even if it doesn't end up here, because again, the thing about digital journaling is that I can add a page and then I will move it as necessary. Right? So yeah. Anyway, this page is here because this is where I was like tinkering with this whole format, which is why I haven't deleted it yet, because I'm not entirely sure if I'm done tinkering quite right now. So it's still like here. So is this one, because I was still tinkering. And finally, the last couple pages of my journal are 2022 in stats, because again, massive nerd. January, February, March are done. April, May, and June are done. July is, these are nowhere near. And this is just a copy paste from 2021. Because again, if it works, don't fucking break it. And here's like the final stat, which is, you can see that it's a copy paste because it says 2021 right there. That is my flip through of my journal as is right now. It still has a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on and everything, but so far I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And you know, I just need to find a little bit more time to dedicate to it, is the truth of the matter. I'm still really in love with it, and yeah, I'm gonna continue working on it throughout the year. So yeah, those have been my thoughts on my reading journal, why I journal, how I journal, and you know, basically all things journal. And I could probably ramble on for so long about my reading journal because I love talking about it. I love telling people about my reading journal and the things that I do in it, and you know, what it means to me and how I express myself through it. So this video could have probably been hours long, but I think that I have said everything that I like really needed to say about my reading journal and my experiences with journaling. And something that I really do love about it is that yes, I like copy paste a lot of the things that I've done, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I constantly find myself doing new things with it, figuring out new ways to like journal and what works for me, what doesn't. And it's just a really great creative medium for me, in which I'm still like talking and thinking about books, which is one of my favorite things to do. But at the same time, I'm not caged into a box about it, right? So if I see something's not working, like with my monthly spreads with the reviews, I can always change it up. I could make it simpler, absolutely, but I also don't want to. I really like this complex thing that I have going on with my reading journal, in which like we battle it out for who's gonna come out on top. I live constantly in love with my reading journal and the things that I get to do in it and through it. That has been all of my thoughts on this particular topic. I kind of want to make a flip through of my 2021 journal, because I think the only person that has seen parts of it or the majority of it aside from me is Skylar, and I kind of want to share it because I worked really hard on it. So yeah, I'll probably do a flip through of that sometime soon. That has been my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for spending this time with me. I have been Tati, and I will see you on the next one. Okay, bye!